Hi, and welcome to Senior Moments. I am Jackie Sibley Newton from Brookdale Assisted Living, and I'll be hosting the show today. Today, our guest is Christine John Fuller, who is the Vice President of Communications with the Alzheimer's Association. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, let's talk about Alzheimer's and let's talk about dementia, because I know in my line of work, sometimes there's some confusion about exactly what the difference in those terms is.
It's probably one of the most common questions we get, right? And we like to simplify it and make it as easy as possible. If you think of dementia from an umbrella term category, thinking through the fact that it's really a generic term for abnormal brain changes and disorders underneath that umbrella. So we're really thinking through not just Alzheimer's, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but really all forms of dementia. Alzheimer's obviously accounts for about 60 to 80% of the cases of dementia from that standpoint, but it is a degenerative brain disease that falls under that category.
So the way I usually explain it to people, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is dementia is a symptom. Alzheimer's is an actual diagnosis. It's an actual disease. Am I breaking that down correctly?
I think specifically, I think you're talking about a group of disorders, and Alzheimer's is one of the disorders underneath that umbrella. So yeah, technically, I think that's an easy way to be able to do that. I think some people think they're two completely different diseases or different disorders, and I think there is overlap that people don't understand that Alzheimer's is a form of dementia.
Right. Now, is Alzheimer's curable?
You know, we hope so. That's what we're in the business to do every single day. We have more promise and more opportunity when it comes to individuals that are impacted by Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia than ever before. So while we don't have a cure yet, we have an amazing, hopeful future, especially in the last couple of years and what's coming out. So I hope that in your lifetime or my lifetime, we possibly do have an answer that is a yes to that.
And there have been tremendous amounts of research, studies, and the technology, the medication, the treatment plan is so much better today, even than it was 2 years ago. It's really become more treatable, I think, than it has ever been before.
Absolutely. You know, I had someone recently that talked about, they remember when they likened it to a family member that was going through a cancer diagnosis and another loved one that was going through an Alzheimer's journey. And they really talked about the difference in the family rallying around the person with cancer, and there was a pathway. They knew, even though it was unpredictable, they kind of knew, and they knew where the support came from. And when we look at that, even like 15 years ago or so, there were resources, there were your resources and our resources, but the amount of knowledge, understanding, opportunities, and like you said, diagnostic testing, care, dementia care options that are out there now is categorically different. And so from how we take care of an individual that is living with the disease, to how we treat the disease, to how we take care of the caregivers, we are in a place in which we've never been before, which a diagnosis does no longer have to mean that there isn't a semblance of quality of life in the midst of a diagnosis.
Exactly, and we deal with that in my line of work as well, trying to make that quality of life still valuable, still very much quality is what we're trying to do. So tell me about the Alzheimer's Association. What exactly is the Alzheimer's Association all about?
Well, I will first say that I am one of those many families that went through the Alzheimer's journey myself growing up. And if I had only known what the Alzheimer's Association had to be able to help my family, it would have been a game changer in our experience going through that. So I always start by saying, you know, first and foremost, I hope that people understand that we are right here in their own backyard. So we have offices across North Carolina, we have staff embedded across the state, and our full-time role is to make sure that we are connecting with individuals when they need us the most, to get them the right vetted information that they need, and to make sure that they've got quality information. So that looks various different ways. That could be everything from a 24-hour or 7-day-a-week helpline that we have that is manned by my colleagues that are master's level care consultants that also know about local resources like the ones here in our own backyard. They also have the ability to be able to point them in the direction of maybe some of the educational programs that we provide from that standpoint. So a lot of it is around care and support, making sure people have the right vetted medical information, that they have access to programs like our, managing money, about legal and financial planning, or, walking someone through what sundowning is if they're having and experiencing that with their loved one, or care options. We want to make sure we're taking care of the family that way. And then we're also in the midst of that putting the best science behind, the best money behind the best science that is out there, because again, ultimately we want better treatments. We want an ultimate cure, and we want people to be able to live in spite of their diagnosis.
Now, I know there's a lot of programming and things that you can offer. What if someone just has the question, how can I prevent it? It runs in my family. How can I prevent this?
I love that you asked that, because risk reduction is a really important piece of that. Whether you are like me and you have it in your family, or whether you're someone who, is lucky to not know anyone that is living with a disease, the truth of the matter is we all have a brain, right? So we all have the possibility of developing Alzheimer's disease. So what that means is really looking at what we can do from a risk reduction standpoint. So we do quite a few programs that are on that specific topic. So we talk a lot about what's good for the body is good for the brain, healthy living, and what that capacity looks like from that standpoint. So we actually do a healthy living program that we can come in and do in your faith community, or with an organization, or possibly at your community in some way. We're able to bring in folks that are experts in those areas to share and do that. But then we're also doing things like we support a research program that we fund, and that we actually run out of Wake Forest. It's called the U.S. Pointer Study. It's a great example. It is a lifestyle intervention study, which they're looking at things like diet, exercise, and how that might impact that journey on Alzheimer's. Whether you're pre-symptomatic, you don't show symptoms, you're living with the disease, can we do risk reduction or mitigate the disease as well?
So let's talk a little bit about statistics. How many people in America are likely to have Alzheimer's?
Yeah, so it is pretty daunting. It's a disease that is a national health crisis. So, we have roughly about 6.7 million Americans aged 65 or older that are living with the disease in the U.S. When we look at that from a North Carolina standpoint, we have an estimated 183,000 people that are living with the disease, again, age 65 and older. So that's not even including what we estimate nationally is about 200,000 individuals who are under the age 65 living with younger onset Alzheimer's.
Younger Alzheimer's. Let's talk about that. That's something I don't hear a lot.
And I wish we were not hearing it as often as we are, but as you mentioned earlier, better diagnostic tools, better understanding of the diseases. People are asking questions when they're seeing things symptomatically that are outside of the norm for someone. So a great example is I have my friend Pat, his wife was diagnosed at 51, and Alzheimer's was not even on his radar of things that it could possibly be.
Right.
But it was his daughter who really said, I think you need to have her get checked out. We think these symptoms don't make sense. And sure enough, after a battery of tests, she was diagnosed. So anyone who's diagnosed in that under 65 range, that's considered younger onset.
Wow. And are we expecting, I think I've seen some statistics where we're expecting this to increase, like more people are being diagnosed this year than last year?
Absolutely. So we actually are in short order expecting that number of 180,000 will be up to 210,000 in just a matter of years. And we actually, and I don't remember all the stats because it's brand new information just recently for us, but just here in North Carolina, we got U.S. county prevalence data, which it gives us a breakdown by county across North Carolina. And that information actually says that every county in North Carolina is at an 8.9% prevalence rate for the population that's 65 and older across North Carolina. So some counties are as high as 15, 16%, but that just goes to show you the number of individuals that are living with the disease here in our own state.
Wow. And I know in July there were some new things that you learned about. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah,
about what happened
yeah.
there?
So we had our Alzheimer's Association International Conference. It was in Amsterdam, Netherlands, and the leading scientists in the world are at this. It is the ultimate program and conference in advancing dementia science. And so we had about 10,000 researchers that were there. There was about 3,000 presentations that took place. Of those, I will note that 117 were from presenters of research institutions right here in North Carolina. So very proud. And some of the things that we learned out of that were everything from, again, really positive news about a treatment that we hope in the next year we might see come to fruition from an FDA approval, a treatment called donanemab that shows delay in cognitive decline for up to a year, which is wonderful, wonderful news. So we're hopeful that those phase 3 results will mean that we will see some news on that very soon. Other things that were interesting, there was things about like hearing loss, and that if you have a hearing intervention, it might help stave off cognitive decline. Also talked about things like gut health, so chronic constipation can actually lead to cognitive dysfunction and cognitive decline. So very interesting things that kind of came out of there. Other things like the possibility that we may see in our very near future a very simple finger prick blood test that could help detect Alzheimer's disease.
Oh, wow.
How changing would that be for us from that
Yes.
standpoint? So a lot of very exciting news coming out that may mean, again, huge news for us on the horizon of what we will be able to do to support those that are impacted by dementia here in North Carolina and beyond.
Well, we're going to take a quick break and then we'll come back and talk more about the Alzheimer's Association.
For many kids, just showing up to school is a challenge. Staying through graduation is even harder. So at Communities and Schools, we do just what our name says. Our staff brings a community of resources to meet each student's needs right in their school, doing whatever it takes to keep kids focused, so they see what we see, a bright future. Join in at communitiesinschools.org.
Hey, I'm David Allen, back as Armchair Quarterback host for 2023.
I'm Guy Suttle from C19 TV Sports.
And I'm Rob Roop from KTCBroadcasting.com.
What's in store on the gridiron for 2023? Each week we look at all 4 Cleveland County High School football teams, Burns, Crest, Kings Mountain, and Shelby. We will look at what happened the week before and look ahead at what's coming up this week.
And we'll also discuss ACC, SEC, and Gardner-Webb college football.
And of course, the NFL and those Carolina Panthers.
So don't miss another great season of football right here on Armchair Quarterback on C19 TV and online at c19.tv.
Cleveland Community College has identified strengthening online learning as the topic for its quality enhancement plan. We're calling it SOUL. SOUL's 5-year implementation plan is focused on continuous improvement of online courses and promoting student success. We're excited for you to take this journey with us.
Welcome back to Senior Moments. I am Jackie Sibley Newton from Brookdale Assisted Living, your host, and we've been talking with Christine John Fuller, the Vice President of Communications for the Alzheimer's Association. And we have covered a lot in a short time, but let's talk about helping people cope with and deal with their family member who might have an Alzheimer's diagnosis.
So I'll first and foremost, let's talk about the term for that, right, which is caregiver. So, you know, it's an important term, but it's an important role as well. And so we talk to people a lot that hear about our organization, they hear the name Alzheimer's Association, and, you know, a lot of, you know, misconceptions. One, we serve all individuals impacted by dementia, but two, they sometimes think that we're only here with services for those diagnosed, but really, honestly, we do just as much for the caregiver as for the person diagnosed itself. So it is by far the most key role. Here in North Carolina, we have estimated 369,000 individuals that are living with the disease. They provide an estimated 533 million hours worth of care, unpaid care here in the state. That probably is to the tune of about $8 billion in unpaid care. It's unbelievable.
That is unbelievable. And I know working with families who have been the caregivers, the exhaustion, the frustration, and confusion, because if we're not trained to know how this is going to progress and how to properly react, the reaction may not always be necessarily helpful.
You know, I think we hear a lot from caregivers who have been along the journey and when they look back, they say, if I had only known, right? And what we want to see and be able to do is, as much as possible, let them know those pieces before they have to look at it in retrospect, so that we can help them along the journey in doing that. And you're right. I mean, the statistics around caregiver health is staggering. So it's a 24/7 day a week job. A lot of times you're doing 4 things at once, you don't get to rest. You know, there's a lot going on. So we just see just as much of a health impact on the individual that's diagnosed. So every single day, we're making sure that we're providing answers, resources, education to caregivers. And, you know, that might look like different things. For one, it might be coming to one of our in-community educational programs that we do. You know, where, again, we can do those with organizations or faith communities or schools or you know, just within a general area, maybe like a library. But some people may say, that's great, I can't leave my home as a caregiver to be able to come. So we also offer some really wonderful virtual options that people can do from home or on demand at their own leisure. We want to meet people where they are, and we realize everybody has a different makeup of the village around them from a dementia diagnosis standpoint, and we want them to have the information that will make their journey easier.
Now, I know they can call an 800 number and somebody will answer no matter what time you call. And that could be just, I am losing my mind. I need somebody to talk to that knows what I'm going through.
Absolutely. So, you know, if you have had a long sleepless night and it's 2 a.m. and you're up and you're, you know, because you're caring for your loved one who is up at that time for whatever reason it may be, from a, you know, behavioral change that is keeping them up, to you're just at wit's end and you need to reach out, you can have a care consultation with one of our colleagues to do that. But they're also there for things as simple as, you know, we've had people that have said, you know, I'm driving right now to the hospital. My loved one all of a sudden started exhibiting these strange, you know, behavioral components. It feels like dementia. And we say, you know, call the 800 number, ask them about a UTI. And they walked them through, you know, that the fact that a UTI could actually bring on dementia symptoms or dementia-like symptoms from that standpoint. So sometimes it's the simplest things that are resolvable. Sometimes it is helping identify something that we just need to figure out how we can modify in our own lives, or where there might be resources or respite care for us that we can provide to folks.
And we work with people in that situation and try to prevent agitation. So if we know that Mr. Jones is likely to get up at 8 p.m. thinking that it's 8 a.m., we know what to do, what to expect. We know he's not going to get angry when he comes to the dining hall and because it's not open, because we already have a muffin and coffee ready for him. So it can be things that simple that we're just going to meet them where they are and deal with the situation as it is.
And think about things even from like a safety perspective, right? So, you know, wandering is a very real, true, and dangerous component of this. And so, you know, if your loved one has started to exhibit signs of wandering, that's a great example of just one thing that someone might call to say, what are some things I can do around my house? What are some resources? You know, we have a medic alert program that we are a part of, but that might be just a way in which they can get some simple tips and tools that help them be able to equip their home in a way that is helpful. But as you can imagine, there's a myriad of different questions people might have at different stages of the journey. At first, it's about diagnosis and treatment and those pieces. As we get into mid and late stages, you're changing. I mean, there's things like learning about toileting, or, you know, other components that are far more sensitive and intimate in nature. And what can we do to walk you through and help you understand what those stages might look like so you're prepared for them?
Exactly, and preparation reduces the stress on both the person who has the diagnosis and the caregivers who are providing that care. So let's talk a minute about the Alzheimer's Walk. It's an annual event. What are we doing at the walk? What's that for?
Well, first and foremost, all the things that we've talked about today, right? So we've talked about care and support services. We've talked about research. What we didn't talk about was like public policy and what we do to help support public policy. All of those things are supported and funded by Walk to End Alzheimer's. So here in North Carolina, we have 17 different walks across the state. We have a busy fall. In the kind of greater Charlotte area, we have about 5 of them. One of them, very close to here, is our Gaston, Cleveland, Lincoln Walk. So we are very, very lucky to have 3 amazing communities that really pull together for an amazing support of what we do. So this year's walk is happening on October 14th. It's going to be at Caramount Health Ballpark, so we're super excited about that. And it's really a place for people to come and realize that they're not alone on their dementia journey, right? And sometimes you just need to see other people that are going through what you're going through. It's a pretty overwhelming experience to be there and see people. And then the other piece is also to know that that is the largest way in which we essentially fuel up the vehicle for our mission. And so what we do with the funds raised there help us do all the things that we've been talking about today.
If people want to get involved in the walk, there are a lot of ways to do that, even if they can't walk. There's a lot of ways they can support. So let's talk about how do they get involved?
Absolutely, super easy. They can go to our website, which I think you guys are going to share, and they can find a way to get to our walk information from there. So it's very easy to be able to do that. But people can come as fundraisers, and they can be a team of 1, they can be a team of many. Sometimes that's friends and family. Maybe that's a company that wants to get involved together in doing that, or an organization. Or they can be a volunteer. So we need committee members that actually help us plan the event. So they help us months leading up to it, inviting people to be involved in it. So if you love to kind of be involved in those types of pieces and take your sphere of influence and get them involved, our committee is a great way. And then we need people day ofs to hand out water, or to check people in, or to hand out our Promise Garden flowers, which is our signature event, all of those pieces. And then sponsorships. So that is everything from, you know, someone who says, I want to support this in a monetary way. I would love to be able to help underwrite the cost of the event. And we have some amazing sponsors here in the area that say, we want to help make sure that not only is this event successful, but that the organization has everything that they need to serve our community.
So for more information about all of it, all the things that we've covered, they can go to the website. Or they call the 800 number, and they're going to be able to have access to answering questions, to being involved with the walk. If they have a specific question about Alzheimer's or dementia, they can ask that question. So just a world of resources.
Yes, and it's super easy, those two options, and it really gives them the ability to get kind of all their answers. And it's not a one-stop shop, so they can call now about this thing, and when something else pops up later that they have a question on, you know, we talk to a lot of people that they almost have it on speed dial to talk to some of our dementia care experts, because it's a great first stop when questions arise that they haven't thought about asking before.
And there are some in-person support groups locally. They can find that information on the website as well and be able to go if they want to do an in-person meeting and be face-to-face with another group of people who are providing care or going through the same things. And sometimes we found it's not a family member, maybe it is someone that is from a home nursing company, but they don't have experience with Alzheimer's or dementia. There's a lot of people that come, not just any specific group.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So you're correct. We have support groups that are across the state. And again, some are in each community so that people can be involved in. Some say, again, I can't leave my loved one, but I want to be involved. So we have some virtual options. We even have some for different types. So maybe it's a male caregiver support group. We have an African American caregiver support group. We have some for different forms of dementia specific to that. So it really can be kind of specialty in nature as well. But again, we just want to meet people where they are and whatever their connection to the disease is, and help them feel like they're getting the information and have those resources at their fingertips.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And I want to encourage everyone to visit the website, get the information, be involved in the walk. If nothing else, donate to Alzheimer's research and help us to try to find a cure for this disease, better treatment for this disease. I thank you for watching Senior Moments, and we'll see you back next time.